Okay, so if you saw my first video, I managed to make a Cyberpunk Kabuto out of an existing German World War II helmet and some scrap metal and some paint and some paracord. And at the end of the video, I'd basically created something that was functional and I could wear to a wasteland weekend, but now it was time to pretty it up and add some fun stuff. Started with the German World War II helmet, and ended up looking more like something out of Warhammer 40k almost. I was alright with that. Sort of the centerpiece, Fox likes to paint miniatures, and I figured since he really wanted to help out with this project, I would get him some glow paint. Now, this paint both glows under blacklight, but also glows in the dark in different colors. So, it was supposed to dry clear, and as you can see here, we were discovering as he painted it, it didn't dry clear. So I didn't know if I wanted to keep that. Back to the Kabuto itself, our friend Kendra sent me a couple of decals that I requested. I figured for the ear flaps, I would put the anti-fascist 3 arrows on one ear flap and the anarchy symbol on the other. So this is my first time working with vinyl on this helmet, and the vinyl didn't want to transfer cleanly. I think it's because there was duct tape involved and the primer didn't properly prime to the duct tape completely. But with a little trial and effort, trial and error, I managed to, and Fox's help, get the decal separated from the tape, put onto the ear flap. Here I'm smoothing it out. It looked alright. And then, of course, it was time to do the anarchy symbol as well. I wanted these not to be a really bright color. I wanted somebody from a distance to see that there was a design on the ear flaps, but I wanted you'd have to be like right up close to really tell what it was. And so I went with this dark red that didn't really pop, and that's kind of what I was looking for. However, again, I was having a hard time getting the vinyl to stick to it. Once they're applied, I think you can see here in a moment. Came out looking all right, but here I am. I'm smoothing it down, and then I remembered, oh right, when you're transferring a vinyl laser cut to anything, the best way to get it to really mold to it and stick to it is apply a hair dryer. So I did. As you can see here, this decal's barely sticking on there at all, but once I smoothed it down repeatedly and then hit it with the hair dryer, it ended up adhering to it really, really flat. So that came out well. She also sent me an extra decal of a design I'd made a while ago, Slut Life, playing off the Salt Life decal. Now this should have been a warning to me. When I applied the Slut Life decal, the backing tape ripped some of the primer off, and that comes up later in this video. But overall, the decals went on well. Just to make sure that they stuck correctly, I then took it outside and hit it with a layer of clear coat. This is basic all-weather lacquer, and I did not apply it sparingly. I applied it pretty heavily. Once it was on there, it was time to curl the ear flaps finally, give them that proper samurai look, using a bottle of Asian fish sauce here to curl it. I was a little surprised because this felt like cheap, simple, pliable metal, and I really had to put a little bit of effort into curling these ear flaps. It was a little more rigid than I expected. Now it's starting to look a little more traditional. As you can see, the paint dried not quite clear and kind of discolored the centerpiece, and at this point I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to keep it. On the back of the helmet, I always wanted to have a solar panel, and I picked this one up from Amazon, and something it came with that I wasn't expecting, it did come with 2 USB ports, so that you could, charge anything off a USB-A and a USB-C. But it was going to go on the helmet, and one of the things I didn't expect came fully charged, but on the back of it, which is where I was going to put a magnet, it had a wireless charger, and I thought that was really neat. And in testing it, I realized putting the magnet there wouldn't really work, because if you put the phone to the side of the back of it, it didn't do anything. But if you put the phone direct dead center, like this, now you have wireless charging. So how do I attach to the helmet without using a magnet? Okay. Speaking of magnets, I decided I was going to use my hooks from suspension as part of the accoutrements. Warning, this next part has a graphic, bloody scene. If you aren't into that kind of thing, you might want to just skip forward maybe 20 seconds. But there's some gore here. My hooks were from one of the last times I did a hook suspension. Those are the actual hooks in my back. This is not for everyone, I understand, but I've done this a few times, and I had kept 2 of the hooks from my last suspension. Never really found a way to use them in my personal life. Like, they just sat on my desk for a couple of years. And then I realized, I could take these hooks and make them part of the helmet. And I could attach them with magnets so that, if I didn't want to wear them, if I don't want to snag on things, I could just take them off. So I decided, oh, right, here's the fire starter. I decided I was going to include an emergency fire starting kit that would nest right behind the centerpiece. And this is made by Zippo. It's got tinder, it's got a flint. I've actually used one of these out in the woods before, and they're really, really handy. And I figured, just it's waterproof, and it fit right behind the centerpiece. I put a little bit of Velcro there, and it stuck perfectly. It actually helped stabilize the centerpiece a bit. That same Velcro came to mind when I realized it's flat enough that if I put it in the center of the solar panel, it wouldn't block a phone from charging. So, put the tacky side, the stickery side on the phone itself, and then I put the fuzzy side on the back of the helmet. It was at this point that I realized I really didn't want to keep I really didn't want to leave it on there permanently. The solar panel will be something you could charge if you're wearing it, but mostly it's something once it's charged you just put it in your pocket. But you can see here is me aligning it. So for the hooks, to attach the magnet to them, I was going to take this leftover Sculpey and make some skulls. Little tiny skulls. But then I realized, this thing already has a giant honking skull in the centerpiece. Do I really need more skulls? And the goth in me said yes, and I went, nah, let's do something different. Let's make it so it attaches to the hook. And I decided to press a Celtic knot piece of jewelry that I had in to make an impression and stick it to the eyelets of the hooks. Here I am having to remove it. And once the imprint was in there, right here, they're still soft, they haven't been baked yet. Once the imprint was in there, though, I could tap a little hole with a toothpick so that I can use a wood screw to attach the magnets to them, and then bake them, and then paint them up. I also decided I didn't want the hooks to just look normal, so I hit them with just a tiny touch of the primer. Like, I wanted them to kind of match the aesthetic of the rest of the helmet. Gorilla Glue once again, and this is where now these are baked, and they're still a little bit rubbery and pliable, but they're pretty stiff, so getting them in there took some muscle. Dot of Gorilla Glue, a wood screw. I'm fighting the magnet right here to get the screwdriver into the screw. These are pretty heavy-duty magnets, so they kept trying to pull the screwdriver out of my hand. But once they were in there with a little Gorilla Glue, let them cure, the hooks came out looking pretty goddamn sweet. I was a big fan of how this turned out. Once again, a little more screw action. Her. And there they are. Just attach the screws to the side of the helmet. The magnets are strong enough that they'll just keep them wherever I put them. And this really gives it some, you know, versatility. You can put those hooks anywhere you want. Anytime you want. So originally I was going to attach a knife to the back of the earpieces, but the earpieces were a little too flappy. And even though the knife was very small, they weren't really stiff enough that you could easily pull and resheath the knife without messing with the ear flaps and the way they bent. So instead, I decided instead of putting them back here, I decided I was going to put the knife down under the helmet. So it was nice and hidden, just a quick little blade you could get to. I was going to put it behind the neck piece. And I decided to cant it at a 45-degree angle for ease of grasping. So here I am marking the drill points. And here I am with my trusty drill again, being very, very careful since I'm doing this by hand, and that's a titanium bit, go right through your finger. Then I got some little bolts with some washers, and was like, yeah, I think that's gonna fit just right. Tightening the bolts a bit. As you can see, it came out pretty solid. Like the knife blade and sheath were attached pretty solidly. Unfortunately, I discovered that the way that I put the handle down, anytime I put on the helmet and I turned my head, the handle of the knife would smack me in the shoulder. So I had to change the angle on it, undo one of the bolts, recant it so that it was pretty much flush with the neck piece, and re-drill and re-bolt. So that was the first time I sincerely fucked up on this one. So I found the video of the original anime. The character had a cigarette case in her helmet, and I decided to buy this one, which was high-tech, waterproof, drilled a hole so that I could put a magnet on it. It has a rechargeable USB lighter, electric lighter in the cap, which is kind of cool. And so I attached a magnet to it, and figured, yeah, that would be something you just slap on the side of the helmet, like so. Looks cool. So here it is with the knife blade adjusted, the angle of the blade adjusted so that it's almost flush with the neck vein. And at this point, if I put on the helmet, it doesn't turn my head, it doesn't tap into my shoulder at all. Oh well. So the helmet was pretty much done at that point, except for some decoration. I'd already created the accoutrements, which were magnetic. They were held on by Velcro, and all of it could be removed as needed or readjusted to straighten it. Pretty much exactly what I planned. Trying it on, I liked it. One of the things that I hadn't talked about in the previous video, even though you've seen it in this video a lot, is the headlamp. This headlamp I purchased off off of Amazon, and it's pretty bright. It's really staggeringly, like, bright as a car headlight on its highest setting, which I thought would be cool in a survival situation. It has 3 different modes, but one of the things it has is motion sensors. You can set it to motion detecting mode, and if you wave your hand in front of the headlamp, you can turn it on or off without even touching the headlamp. So, in the dark here, showing off, again, this cute little gimmick. Really liked it. Really, really glad I got this headlamp for it. On and off. Way out here, it doesn't turn it on or off. You have to be within about 10 inches of the headlamp. So, now it's time to just add some decals, I think. And a little bit of gold paint. I bought this. It's a Krylon paint pen of gold leaf. This came highly rated as completely opaque. And I decided I was going to test it out first on the cigarette case. Getting the pen going. I didn't know how opaque this would show up against metal or plastic, so I tested it on the back of the cigarette case where nobody would see it by just making a little X here, like so. And as you can see, this paint is completely opaque, so once I was sure it was color fast, I decided I was going to decorate first the cigarette case. Ta-da. Now it was time to use it on the helmet. I didn't want to overdo it on the helmet with the gold accoutrements. Like, just add a few lines, add a little bit of gold, like, edging to the brim of it and the ear flaps. Normally, if I was doing an art project like this, I would be using a ruler and measuring and making sure everything's perfectly spaced out. Once again, as I did in the previous video, I just eyeballed this. Played around with it. Didn't mind if the little dots I was doing here were a little messy. I mean, it's a Wasteland Kabuto helmet. It should look a little messy. Once the dots were in place, I decided it was time to do the edge, the leading edge of the helmet. So I turned it upside down and did this. The end result actually came out looking really, really cool. So that was fun. Then I edged the ears. I didn't take any video of me doing that. I also bent them a little bit more so the flaps themselves were like curled more. And then, just for safety, I decided to hit the whole damn thing with a layer of clear coat, because you never have enough clear coat. Kendra sent me more decals on my request. Kendra is awesome. And I wasn't sure which of the decals I wanted where, but I did know I wanted this little decal that says you need to back the fuck up. I wanted to put that on the final lower neck blade in the rear. And this is where I really fucked up. So, as you can see, here I am making sure it fits. And I cut it into pieces, and I started with the middle of the sentence, and I put it on the neck vein. Here I am flattening out. She had warned me that the metallic vinyl was hard to work with. Lord, did I find out about it. Because it looked really cool. It's really flashy and metallic and coppery. And the moment I tried to transfer it to the back of the helmet, this happened. As you can see, the letters didn't stick to the vein at all. They just stuck to the primer, and the tape ripped the primer right off the back of the helmet and fucked up the decal. So the other decals I decided to put on the helmet itself, which had no duct tape. It was just primer on metal. And we found that by peeling it off the tape and applying it by hand, Fox and I could get the decals on pretty straight. We show that right here. Just for those of you home wondering, the kanji of the two decals that I ended up putting on the helmet are both the kanji for Ronin, which was a masterless samurai, and also the kanji for Gaijin, which is anyone who's not purebred Japanese. As you can see, getting the decals off this transfer tape was It was a little nerve-wracking. This stuff really didn't want to come off. But with patience and thumbnails and a piece of plastic, we managed to get the decals off and applied to the helmet. And these ones came out great. They didn't rip off any of the primer at all. I just now had a big black patch on the back of the thing that I needed to touch up. Yeah, like getting it off that tape. Look at that. But once we smooth them down, applied a little bit of heat, the vinyl was good. Adjusting some wrinkles. Get on there. There we go. It was at this point that we decided to check out how the blacklight version of the glow paint looked, and it turned out it was really eye-poppingly awesome, so I decided I was going to keep it. Looked really, really good under blacklight, and also after 60 seconds of blacklight, it glowed really bright. Here I am patching that stupid mistake on the back, using a little more masking tape to protect what was already painted. Keep those lines. And after a few more coats of clear coat, at this point, this helmet's done. So I decided to try it on. As you can see, it's modular, again, not too heavy. I weighed it, it came in at about 7.8 pounds, which sounds heavy, but for a military helmet, it's really not. And yeah, this is something I think I can wear to the wasteland. Functional. Allows you to see in the dark pretty easily. It looks bitchin'. And this is pretty much exactly what I was going for when I first started this. A nice bulletproof helmet that I could wear to Wasteland Weekend or in the event of an actual apocalypse. So as you can see, I have full range of motion. I can look up, down, to the sides, no problems. It's got the little hidden knife you can just quickly get to in case you need it, razor sharp. So now what else do I want to do for this outfit? Probably more to come as I continue my adventure in making a Wasteland Samurai outfit.